Hello and welcome to the Rangers Review evening breaking news briefing with me, Jonny McFarlane. I am here with Joshua Barrie, who is out in Sweden, Malmo, and he's just spent the last hour or so listening to everything that Philippe Clement and player had to say regarding this big game tomorrow, the first of Rangers' 8-match sojourn into the Europa League. Plenty to talk about. Josh, I'm going to go straight into the action because we've got 15 minutes and I want to burst through as much as I can. Oscar Cortes, that is the topic that is lighting Twitter, that's lighting up social media in general. I have to say, I looked at these quotes and they made me take a double take because he has really not had a good time since arriving. Rangers fans everywhere, and I'm sure Philippe Clement will be the same, tearing their hair out. This talented young lad who's looked so good when he's had an opportunity, but he's just not been able to build up any head of steam at all. I'll just read you out what actually was said regarding Cortez. Philippe Clement said he's got a knock and will be out for several weeks, so that's the disappointing thing because he was growing back to his best level and showing the player that he was or he is and that he will be in the future. The rest of the squad stays the same as last weekend. Asked if there was any concerns generally over Cortez, he said no, it's just duels, it's football, part of the game, and you have lucky moments and unlucky moments. This was just an unlucky one. It was not a crazy tackle, but you have duels in football and things can happen. He's been really unlucky in the last couple of months with those things. I hope all the bad luck for him stops now and the rest of his career will be the good luck side. But it's part of football. It's part of football, Josh. There's no doubt about that. But Rangers have been so damaged and so affected by injuries. When you have a player like this who's just come in, especially one on loan where you've got an obligation to buy, and they're already breaking down so consistently, you can kind of understand why there's been that reaction.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you're saying there that you had to take a double glance at the quotes, Jonny. Those quotes, you could have kind of copy and paste the tone of what Clement is saying when when Cortez had his injury back in, what was it, late February at Kilmarnock, when that was told. I think the quote at the time was it was somewhat of a freak injury due to the way that Cortez had fallen. He then required surgery after that. Similarly, on the first day of the season, it was after a duel, I think, with the Hearts right back Gerald Taylor. Cortez felt he could come on after halftime and then pulled up quickly after that. I asked Clement after, is it something in particular, or is it just purely bad luck? Clement insists that this isn't a recurring injury. It's not a weakness in the player. But as you say, we've really, when we've seen Cortez, he's looked really bright. I thought in the first half against Dundee United, he was bright. And I thought he was bright alongside Chefty. And you could see that being a promising partnership starting to grow. But he's just not been able to build up any steam in particular because he had, 7 appearances maybe when he first came into the club. He got injured. He got injured in the first day of this season after a full pre-season. And then obviously just as he's coming back to something nearing full fitness, as Clement said in tonight's press conference, he picks up another injury as well. So I think we'll continue to see probably what we spoke about, Derek and I, in the show this morning, with Barrie playing off the left and moving into midfield and more of Tom Lawrence in that number 10 spot, but dropping into deeper positions as well. But it's a huge blow for Rangers, and it's a huge blow because they have another injury-prone winger on the left in Ravi Matondo, don't they? And that's an area of the team that is looking light, and is certainly looking light, looking ahead to tomorrow night against Malmo.
Yeah, Josh, you talk about Barrie potentially going out there on the left. We've got Maka coming in with a comment there saying, that's a blow. Who takes his place on the left side? Igaman. Do you see that as a potential option? Do we know that he can actually play wider left or right?
Yeah, he has played left, maybe more of a left wing than a left midfield position. I don't think that happens for the simple reason that if you start him on, let's say hypothetically, start him on the left tomorrow night, who do you rotate for Cyril Dessers in the last 20, 30 minutes? And then you're just kind of pushing the problem area, I'd say, to another position of the pitch. So this is the situation. This is the reality of the squad the Rangers have. They've done some good work this summer. They've brought the wage bill down. They've brought a few really promising young players. But the squad is nowhere near complete. You're a number of players, and then you have the knock-on effect of, we'll move this player here, the Dujon Sterling effect. We'll move this player here to cover here, but then what about elsewhere? For example, if you move Dujon Sterling, let's say, to play most of his football at right back, okay, that's fine, but then what about the cover at the base of the pitch and vice versa? So it's a pretty actually small squad, I would say. It's a pretty lean squad, and it's a squad that probably can't carry too many injuries. Now, over the course, Rangers only have, 2 injuries at the moment. Ridvan Yilmaz is on his way back, and Oscar Cortes is obviously out. But all those injuries have kind of been concentrated on the left-hand side of the pitch. On a positive note, I thought Barami looked good at the weekend against Dundee. He's not left-footed, but he probably should come away from that game with 2 assists on his left foot, shouldn't he? It's a question that who plays in that role tomorrow, because Lawrence, I think, is unlikely to start 3 games in a week, Jonny, unless because the international break is only a week away. Clement thinks that he can do that, but there's no doubt, especially that left-hand side, Rangers are pretty light at the moment.
Some comments from our YouTube members. They always get priority in the comments. Stephen says it'll be Bayrami left and Lawrence at 10. I think that's in agreement with you, Josh, and I have to say I think that's the option that they will use as well. I was pretty impressed, I have to say, with how Barami performed in that last outing, and I think he can. He kind of requires more minutes. I think it's handy for him to play and get up to speed, and I don't think you're going to be rotating him much at the moment. If you can get him in, you get him in and see what he can do. When you pay £3 million for a player at Rangers, you want to get them into the squad. Neil McLean said he's getting worried about Cortez now. There's obviously something going on. This isn't bad luck, it's rotten luck. Hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. Actually, Neil, I think what it is unfortunately, as Clement says, sometimes players just get the bad end of a duel and the worst happens. Now, I think what you've just got to watch for, what you've got to keep an eye out for, is this something that keeps happening, or is it a situation where it's a follow-on from that major injury, and the recovery process, sometimes it just takes the body a little bit while to get back into the swing of things. Scotland's very physical. The training's more physical than what you'll be used to in other leagues, never mind the actual games themselves. Sometimes with foreign players especially, there's a wee period of adjustment physically, and you have to hope that's the situation with Cortez. Now, Josh, there was another couple of questions that I want to drill into the detail of, not least what was asked with regards to there being money to spend in January. There's obviously a new chairman in. It's interim at the moment as the club go out and look to bring in someone who can steer the club forward in terms of the CEO and a new chairman to go with that. But that is John Gilligan, the interim chairman's focus at the moment, is that CEO to lead the club into the next few years. And he was asked, Philippe Clement, is there money to spend? He says, it's important and it's necessary. It was not easy in the summer. We talked about that. Maybe the people in the club will talk about that later on in the next couple of months, also about that situation. Of course, as a manager, you hope to get more funds in to do the right thing for the club. But with the resources that were there, I think everyone is starting to see that a lot of good things have been made. And it's now interesting to work with that and to focus on that. And then, of course, to plan towards January. And we are already doing that, and to plan towards next summer. We're also busy with that. And that's our job, and with recruitment to do. It's important to also have money to do the right things for the club. So I think, Josh, what he's intimating there, reading between the lines, perhaps some of the fracas that has gone on with the stadium has had a direct impact. You have to surmise that until told otherwise. Certainly, there seems like there has been a movement, a changing of the goalposts, and it's something that will be discussed. You have to imagine the whole situation with Hampden will not have come at no cost to Rangers. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that there was not the same level of attendance at Hampden as there would be at Ibrox. Far from it. Therefore, there is not going to be the same level of sales of food and drink and programs and all the other bits that go along with a match day and how much money Rangers can take out of a match day. So there's clearly going to have been an effect there. Whether or not that's translated to less of a transfer budget, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's fair to say that Philippe Clement is clearly saying there that perhaps there was a smaller transfer budget than he was expecting, but they had to work very, very hard and very, very cleverly to get what they've got. He's happy with what they've got to an extent, but more will have to come.
Yeah, and he's referenced that kind of in regards specifically maybe to, I don't know, the number 6 position, the transfer window. We've talked about it quite often, haven't we, since it closed? I felt we talked about it all summer. I think some good business was done. They're light in certain areas. Even if you just think, Jonny, to the fact that if we're talking about Barami and Lawrence playing tomorrow night, you've got the difficulty of Chefty's obviously suspended. So he was maybe someone you could push into that left wing position. But perhaps more specifically, he would be someone who, as we saw against Dundee at the weekend, he's your left back, but in possession he can push really high and give you that outlet on the left, which then allows Barami to play in field instead of out wide. Now, you've got the option of someone like Robbie Fraser, but he's hardly started at all for Rangers. Does Dujon Sterling or Casim Weirjo play out there? Both of them are right-footed. So it's a squad that is at the start of a rebuild and a rebuilding process. It's not near the end. And Clement he's kind of made a few comments in recent weeks, hasn't he? One up at Dundee United about other people from the club speaking. He's had to discuss a lot of off-pitch matters really consistently. And if you look at the situation he inherited last October up until now, there's been constant executive changes. There's been the Ibrox situation. There's been changes in funds. There's been the reality that he spoke about in the summer. It was difficult to get players out, and that slowed down Rangers transfer business. So I think what you continually feel from Clement at the moment, being in press conferences and hearing from him, is he wants to speak about football and he wants a structure behind him that allows him and enables him to do that. And Gilligan coming out and speaking, obviously he's only in an interim position, but it fills a void there. It gives another voice, which I think is important, Jonny, because that void is going to be filled. And if it's just Clement speaking, he in effect has been speaking about a lot of issues and areas that he doesn't have control over. He doesn't have influence over. It's not his decisions that he's kind of answering the tough questions for. Now, that might be the same for Gilligan at the moment, John Gilligan, the interim chairman, but he's a representative, isn't he, of the board, so it's slightly different. I think you sense that Clement is happy he's got someone else speaking alongside him purely because he's had to do so much of that over the last year, and so much of it hasn't really been about what he's in control of.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Josh. Final point that I wanted to touch on was Clement's repudiation. There's a big word for you, pal, at 7:30. I've already had my first beer of the night. Of links with Anderlecht. He said, I want to speak about that. It's really clear I engaged myself long-term for Rangers last month. So whoever comes, whatever team comes, I am not going to go away. I'm really clear. I want this project with the club to make it really successful for the future. And we all know we need time for that. We need a few transfer windows for that. We need a lot of work to do for that. And that's what I want to do, because I love this city. I love the club. I love the dynamic at Ibrox with the fans. So I'm here to stay. That must be just about the most convincing rebuttal of a managerial move rumour that I've ever heard. I mean, normally managers are non-committal because the nature of football is that someone is always out there who could potentially come in and snap you up and take you away. We know that Rangers operate in the Scottish Premiership, and despite the fact that they are a huge club, there is clubs that can offer someone like Philippe Clement 4 or 5 times his salary. But that is an absolute... I mean, you couldn't be any clearer in terms of your future. And now you have to live by that, I suppose. The question is... maybe that the way it's gone so far for Philippe Clement, perhaps he's quite clearly seeing Rangers as actually a really, really good option for him, and he needs to make this work for his own career. He's had a slightly difficult time at Monaco, despite these 2 wonderful spells in Belgian football. Yeah, and he won't really want another dodgy one on his CV with Rangers, will he? So perhaps he's just want to make it absolutely clear where his focus is. And let's be honest, that's exactly what the players, what the fans need to hear at the moment. It's this continuation of the idea of, we're aware this has been a crisis club, or a club where instability has been a watchword, and it's time for everyone involved to stop that, to put down roots and say everything from now on is going to be about the long term. It's going to be about rebuilding this club back to where it should be. And it's good to hear that coming so directly from the manager, I would assume, for Rangers fans.
Yeah, I think there's a sincerity to him, John. I mean, he had an offer. Clement had an offer before the Rangers job, and I believe actually at the same time when he got the Rangers job last October, an offer in the Middle East that would have made him a lot more money than coming to Rangers. I think there's sincerity when he speaks about the fact that he loves the city and the club and the passion and all these different factors, and it's important that there is that stability. He didn't shirk the question. He actually, I think, welcomed the question. Obviously, it's in line with him signing a new contract as well. There's a couple of factors at play. Rangers have been a crisis club. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You look at the change in every single area. It's been a crisis club, and they've also. But one of the things that I think has really let them down is not doing the same thing consistently. They've changed managers, they've changed style, they've changed recruitment policy. That's never going to work. So simultaneously, I think you can say that Clement is a manager who has a proven track record of winning. I think he has a stature to be a Rangers manager. He's comfortable working within a system where it's not just him picking the players, and he's used to working within the structure of a modern football club, which is what Rangers need to do. And they need to do something for that. They need to do the same thing for a long period of time, changing again. We've seen it. It just does not work. Simultaneously, he also still has a point to prove. He has Old Firm games to win. He has to regain momentum that he's not been able to since March. That, there'll still be questions about his style of play until it wins consistently. So I think those two things can survive in unison. But what the majority of people would suggest is you've seen enough from Clement to suggest that he can be a successful Rangers manager. Whether he will is going to take time to ultimately prove that. But regardless of whether there is still questions, and there will be questions until he wins things consistently, you cannot just keep changing attack. You cannot just keep changing approach. And all the noises from people closer to the situation about Clement's job consistently since he came in has been that he will receive total backing and he will receive time, because it is time that ultimately is going to be needed to solve a long-term problem. Rangers have tried to solve long-term problems with short-term solutions quite a lot over the last few years. They can't do that again, and clearly, as Clement has repeated tonight at this press conference, he is very much bought into that project as well, despite whatever else might come up.
Indeed. One last question again from a member. Day in the Life's asking, what's the team news for tomorrow, lads? Is there any other injuries or anything coming out around the team, Josh? All forward?
Ridvan Yoma's out and Jefty out, so we'll speak about it more in the show tomorrow. How does that left back position impact the rest of the team? I don't think you're going to see Clement change shape. Will he just go with two right footers on that left hand side though? But now the only other team news, Ridvan Yoma is still not back, Jefty suspended, and obviously the big one, Oscar Cortez, is out for several weeks, so you can interpret that, or people can interpret that as they will, but certainly it's going to take him a lot of time. As he's just been coming back from injury, it's going to take him a lot of time until he gets back up to speed in that position. And obviously Rabbi Matondo still out as well, so it leaves that left wing position with a lot of questions over the next couple of months, certainly up until the next international break. And I'd expect that the type of approach you saw against Dundee at the weekend, with Chefty as your player providing width on the left, Barami coming in field, Lawrence dropping slightly deeper, I think that's kind of the tactical setup you'll see Clement continue with, while he doesn't have a winger on the left for the next few weeks.
Well, certainly going to be fascinating, Josh. I hope you enjoy the game tomorrow. Slightly earlier kickoff for you, so you can maybe get yourself out for a couple of beers tomorrow night before your flight the next day.
Potentially.
You never know.
Dare say.
I don't know how much it is for a pint out there. Is it not like 15 quid or something ridiculous?
It's actually okay. It's not. I think it's cheaper than Denmark and Norway. I would say slightly more expensive than home, but not terrible. Not terrible.
And Malmo, are you giving it a thumbs up, thumbs down? What was it like?
Yeah, not seen much of it, to be fair, but hopefully see a little bit more tomorrow. Obviously, as you say, it's an earlier kickoff, not the late kickoff slot. But yeah, I think you'll see quite a lot of Rangers fans come over tomorrow as well. So I will report back pre-match tomorrow what I'll give my tourism rating of Malmo, so people can
good.
Wait
with you get out there and you enjoy some Danish delicacies. You know, I like to do that when I'm away. As you saw in Germany, you get stuck into the well, listen, the local cuisine. Let's just not go into
leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that. Right, listen, thanks to everyone who's joined us. Thanks for all the questions, particularly from the members out there. Some really good ones in for us to mull over. Really interesting press conferences as well, guys. It's on the YouTube channel. It's right there. I would go and watch it because it's we've got a wee feeling that Philippe Clement's got his mojo back a little bit, Josh. He's kind of, he seems like he's a little bit more playful again, maybe kind of bit more confidence now that he's starting to see those green shoots from the seeds that he's planted in the summer training camps, etc., that are coming to fruition a little bit now. So really, really good watch. So give that a spin, and we will catch up with you tomorrow prior to the game and then after the game. Hopefully we'll be talking about a really, really good game and some terrific action, and maybe even a Rangers win. You never know. Okay, guys, thanks for watching.